Build compelling real-time apps quickly and scale them globally with the PubNub real-time network. Only PubNub delivers the core building blocks needed for any real-time application. Find out for yourself by signing up for free today. Visit pubnub.com. Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, the most trusted podcast dedicated to the new business of location. Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing. Today is May 12th, 2013, Sunday night. That's Mother's Day, late at night, way past my bedtime. This is episode number 129. My name is Rob Woodridge from Untether.tv, located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and situated. Depends on if you're listening to this in your right ear or your left ear or your left side or your right side of the dial, but home of the so lucky Toronto Maple Leafs that squeaked by tonight. That's why we're doing this so late. Who's with me today?
Yeah, whatever. Here we go.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association. Very proud of the Leafs tonight. There's going to be a Game 7, and they're going all the way. No, not all the way, but they're going past this round anyways.
Oh, spoken like a Leaf fan. That just drives me crazy.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
You know, the parade is already set up. The parade route for the Stanley Cup champion Toronto Maple Leafs is already set up. But you know what I got to say is that, there are a couple of ex-Ottawa Senator players on the Boston Bruins in Zdeno Chara and Kelly. And Chris Kelly, and they must just be sitting there thinking, like, come on, maybe it was me that did it.
What about that Wade Redden?
Oh, Wade Redden, yes, of course, Wade Redden. It was Wade Redden's fault. It was all Wade Redden's fault. So, congratulations. Yeah. We'll see what happens. By the time you're listening to this, it might be the series will be over probably. If you listen to this on Tuesday or Friday when it gets published with our syndicate partners, but certainly right now, Toronto. The city of Toronto is on all highs, shall we say. Asif, man, big week for you. You spent some time in sunny Florida. Let's start there. What were you doing down? Was it Miami you were in?
I was in Boca Raton, actually, and it was the Retail Technology Exchange event. So a good collection of brands and vendors. It was one of these kind of one-on-one meetings, brands who are hungry, retailers who are hungry to kind of explore new technologies, and vendors who've got it. So it was a good matchmaking exercise. I gave a presentation there. Good vibe, good people. Some really great companies down there. Limited, Bed Bath and Beyond, Ralph Lauren. All kinds of Brooks Brothers. I mean, the list goes on.
Those are small brands.
It was great.
Yeah.
Small little brands. Yeah. Toys R Us. Stuff like that.
Never heard of any one of those. Bills.
Good event. Yeah. And this week I'm actually at home doing a bunch of events here, and then next week on May the 23rd is the GeoWeb Summit in New York.
Very cool.
A great event, been going for a while. This is the 6th time they've run this event, sponsored by our good friends and members over at Maponics and Digby, both great companies, and a lot of phenomenal speakers. The founder of PlaceMeter, the CEO John Slitz from Space Curve, Aisle 411 is going to be there. Anne-Marie Stephen from Path Intelligence, Skyhook. I mean, some great companies. Hans Scharler, who's the co-founder of IOBridge. These guys are all about. It's a platform for Internet of Things. So should be a good, wide-ranging discussion. Really looking forward to it. Excited about that. May the 23rd. GeoWebSummit.com.
Where is that? That's in New York, right?
New York, yeah.
God. You get to go to the best places, right? New York, Miami. Well, as long as we get to go in Ottawa to a place called Lord Stanley, I'm okay with that. You can go to Miami and New York. We'll just go to Lord Stanley.
Well, let's just say it's been a long time since Ottawa's been there.
Yeah, it's the 20s for those of you who are historians. All right, well, what do you say we jump into this? We got some great stories here, as usual. Before we do, I want to talk about a product. Usually we bring in an app for our little, preamble or little app of the week. Mm-hmm. But I had a really great opportunity to sit with a guy in Israel. His name is Ran Avrahami, and he is the co-founder of a company called Scringo. And Scringo is really an SDK that you bring into your app. And he calls his company a direct-to-developer company, which is really interesting. This is a free plugin that allows you basically to integrate a number of really important components of an application into your app right out of the box. It takes about 5 minutes to integrate this into it. And you've got things like contact information. You got things like tagging and, the equivalent to like an Instagram where you can like items. And there's this one feature that's very cool. It's called Radar, which allows you to, with location, obviously, leverage location to be able to bring or show who is using your app around you. So if I'm using an app that you've created with Scringo's technology in it, and I have Radar enabled, I can actually see who's using the app around me. And it's a little bit of a location play, but this is, when you take the core of your application and it's the thing that does the thing that you want to sell or that people are going to download for, the rest of it is like is an afterthought or a secondary thought around, all of these things, contact support. So why not leverage something like Scringo, which is free? Did I say it's free? They have monetization plans down the road that aren't going to impede these services that they currently get that are free. Why not use these guys and use this service to get things off the ground? At some point, maybe you need to be able to create your own, but the features that they've got here, I'm going to pull them up. You've got basically an activity. That was the stream that I talked about when it came to tagging things or liking things like an Instagram type of thing. You've got messages, which is an internal email client. You've got find and invite friends, which is the connections to the social side. You've got Radar, which is that location piece. And then, of course, you've got feedback, which is the way that you can actually enable feedback from your users to your application. This is a free use. And it's unlimited. There's no caps. Just go and take a look at it at scringo.com. When I sat down and talked to these guys, what I found really clear was that they were doing this for the developers. They're ingrained in the developers community. They love developers. They want to actually support developers. And monetization was secondary for these guys. They've raised a little bit of money, but take a look at these guys. Why duplicate this effort? So Scringo.com, it's not an app, but it's going to help your app if you're in that process of developing one right now. Just speed things up. And I great feedback from people who are using this, and I love companies that do this kind of stuff. It's altruistic, and why not use it?
Yeah, it sounds great, and I think there's a lot to be said for these kind of SDK kind of empowerment tools that just enable you to kind of add these little feature sets to anything that you're doing and be able to query on that basis. So I love that kind of stuff, and it's free. You said free, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I interviewed him. He's up on tether.tv, but it's one of the featured. It's one of the most recent ones that I put up there. But he was so passionate about the development community, and he's ingrained in the development community. And his only goal is to get this out to as many people as he can. They've done some great code here, so go and check him out at scringo.com and play around with it. It is, as I said, free, and you'll be able to see get a better sense of the services that are up there than just a few minutes here. So scringo.com. Please go and take a look at it. All right, what do you say? What do you say we jump right into the stories? We got 6 stories. Of course, we got our guest. I didn't even mention that's Duncan McCall from PlaceIQ. They raised a little bit of money. You had an opportunity to sit down and talk with him this week. And our resource of the week from Pew Research. Let's start with the first story, Mr. Khan.
Yeah, the first story is a new launch, a new company called BlockAvenue. Really excited by this one, actually, because we love the companies that are focused on data, and this is all about data again. And so what these guys have done, a few weeks ago we talked about a company called Foursquare, providing kind of real estate data. You remember that conversation, and it's along the same lines, but a lot more robust in the amount of data that they're collecting. So initially, they've launched this as a website. They say they're launching a mobile app version of it in a few weeks from now. But basically, what they've done is they've taken the entire U.S., divided it up into small little neighborhoods or blocks, as they're referring to them, and basically aggregating every piece of possible data they can find about what's going on in that block or in that neighborhood, and they're sucking stuff in from Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare, See, Click, Fix, a whole bunch of different stuff they've talked about in this list here, and they're actually giving scores on these blocks. If you're out, searching for where you're going to buy your next property and you want to understand the neighborhood and not just real estate prices and all that other stuff. There's a lot of data in here. And even though they said this is a US, I actually went on the site because it's a website, and I typed in my address, and there's some data there. They actually, you can click on pins on a map, and it'll show you, recent crime, house crime in this neighborhood, property crime, all this kind of stuff. So they've got all that data all pulled together into one place. The founder described this as a what did he call it? It's kind of like a Facebook feed, he said, for your neighborhood. And I like it. I really like it a lot. And so these neighborhoods have scores. So it goes from, you can have an A to an F on a neighborhood.
What was yours?
All the ones that, there wasn't one specifically on my neighborhood, but around the area, there was a few neighborhoods that were mapped, and they were all A's for now.
Of course, we're in Canada, right?
But there were some crimes noted on there, so it was interesting.
So I did this. I'm actually going to be in Lake Placid for a week, and next, not this coming week, but the week after. And so I just did a search for Lake Placid, and you know what surprised me about this is they're pulling in as much data as you can possibly get. There are four relocated sex offenders that live basically on the main strip in Lake Placid, and I got that information from this. It was front and center. Like they are tapping every single data store that you can possibly get from this, and I was shocked. They pretty much gave the address of where these guys were living. If you believe that, but four in Lake Placid. So Lake Placid seems to be a hotbed for rehabilitation. There's a lot of data in here, and I think that there's a lot of data that it's freely available from everywhere else. But I think the biggest part of this is also that they're looking for contributions from the neighborhood themselves.
Yeah.
Like you and I in our neighborhood, and adding our favorite restaurant, our favorite bar, and where to go, what not to do, what cab company to take, what restaurant to eat at, and so on and so forth. And I think, this sounds like a broken record. We go through this all the time. I think that the established data companies, the guys that have the data, the census folks, right, the people who have the crime data, the rates and everything like that, that stuff has been accumulating for so long. It's the stuff that you rely on from the humans that is just so up in the air all the time. And in order for this to really succeed from that neighborhood level, like I think it succeeds right now, accumulating a whole bunch of data into one spot and then allowing people to access and query that data. And I love the idea that it gives a grade, and they have their own little algorithm that does that. But when it relies on humans, that's where we fail, right? Oftentimes, because it needs deep penetration in every neighborhood in order for this to be of true value. So can these guys do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly in terms of data aggregation capability and the algorithms, it's great. I think what will drive additional value around this is if the locals in those neighborhoods contribute to this, and so they want you to post stuff on here. If your kid's bike gets stolen, they want you to post it on as part of the data into that neighborhood. If there's a great new coffee shop that just opened around the corner, they want you to post that that data. So it's you got all the public stuff and where the sex offenders are, and you got all that the pothole data coming from SeeClickFix, and you got all that other stuff, and the crime data. That's valuable. And obviously, if you're looking for real estate invaluable stuff, the schools, the ratings of the schools in the U.S., you have school ratings, all that kind of stuff, is great. But it's that local contribution that will make a difference. And for me, the interesting thing is if you were to take something like this and combine it with Patch over at AOL,
exactly.
Now you've got something really interesting for me.
But don't you find that like everybody's battling for the same space, right? Everybody's trying to battle at the neighborhood level. They all want you and I to contribute because we're in two different neighborhoods, and they all want us to offer our thoughts, and they all want us to be curators of the content or neighborhood owners. They all want us to do that, and I wonder if that just splits out the message, and to the point where I don't even want to contribute anything. Just you know what I mean? There's so much. I don't know which to choose.
But I think if there's some system that says, hey, by contributing to this, there's something in it for you, and I think that's what's missing here, right? So, there's got to be some value proposition for the consumer in this.
Well,
other than I'm looking for real estate.
Exactly, because that it's quite frankly, I mean, my favorite neighborhood is the one that I can actually that's safe, that I can buy a house in, that I can afford, and that I can see that the property values are going to increase. Right? That's what my favorite neighborhood is right now. Right?
For sure.
And we just happen to be in the middle of one of those right now, which is good. Well, if you're interested, to go to blockavenue.com. blockavenue.com, exactly as it sounds. I would look forward to the application. I mean, I think that the mobile app for this is going to be interesting, because how you contribute to Block Avenue, you've really got to be able to do that through a mobile app, not just through a web browser. So they said in a couple of weeks that should be coming out, and we'll see. Discover something new in your neighborhood every day.
Love it.
blockavenue.com. All
right. Okay, so story number 2. Pennies for Life is the name of this campaign. This is something that was put on by the Microloan Foundation in the UK and their agency DLKW Low. Should we just show the video, Rob? I think that's the best way to start, and then we can just quickly talk about it. So
we'll roll the video right now.
Unbelievable combination of digital out of home and mobile coming together to do something really good.
Something really great. Here's a video, and we'll come back on the other side.
The Microloan Foundation is a charity that lends money to some of the poorest women in Africa to help them to set up their own small businesses. Our campaign is called Pennies for Life, and this year we staged a unique live event. We created unfinished portraits of African women made entirely of pennies and put them on a digital poster site. Then we invited people to complete the pictures by texting a donation to the poster. As soon as the message arrived, the donor got a personal thank you. Then their money dropped into place on the screen. The more texts we got, the faster the picture built, until we had enough money to make one business loan to one woman in Africa. Then we built another one, and another one. Each donor also got a credit on our microsite, where all the portraits were displayed. It was a live, interactive demonstration of small change creating big change for women in Africa. And from one poster in one shopping centre in its first weekend, 21 women who had nothing now have their own small businesses.
Yeah, so I mean, just a great application of technology for a great cause. And very simple. You see that screen in the middle of a shopping environment. So this is at Westfield in London, and you basically send an SMS message to the screen, and you make a donation. You get personally recognized for that donation on the screen. Thank you for making that donation, Rob. And you see what you're contributing to right away. And a couple people can contribute around you at the same time, and one person's new career has been started in Africa. I mean, phenomenal stuff. And the other thing I really like about this is this was the screen time for this campaign. The digital out of home board was donated as well by Ocean Outdoor for this as part of a competition that they ran. So just a goodwill all around.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, there's nothing more to say other than it's inspiring when you see such a great combination of location, funding, and mobile come together for this kind of cause. And the numbers are staggering. And these are small loans that make such a difference, like Kiva, another microloan company. But this is so unique and so visual. And it just shows you that interface and experience can go a long way in making sure that something actually happens or gets done. And in this case, this is a perfect example of that. Pennies for Life by Microloan. Very, 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 very cool. You'll want to watch that video many times over. Hopefully, just Google or just go onto YouTube and you'll find it there. Pennies for Life. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, one of the feel good stories today, wouldn't it seem?
There you go.
Hey, speaking of feel good, what if you created this company? This is our third story. If you created this company that was like the promise of a crowdsourced location and crowdsourced traffic and crowdsourced speed traps and crowdsourced light cameras, and you called it Waze, and oh, by the way, it does directions and all those kind of things that every other GPS does. But this company called Waze, and it's a small company, all of a sudden shot up through the ranks over the last couple of years. We've seen this last year, maybe, 20 million, 30 million. I think there's 37 million or 47 million people in that range that use this product today. And then, oh, by the way, there's a big company over here with a whole crap load of cash that spent $1 billion on another company a year ago. Now they're talking about another $1 billion acquisition. That's Facebook. All these rumors swirling around about to buy Waze, the mapping company. Unbelievable, really, when you think about this. The value. Waze has no revenue model, has not earned a dime, has had a whole bunch of millions of dollars invested into it by venture capitalists, and Facebook looking to kind of bolster up their mobile side again. Pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing, and we'll see whether this one comes true. We heard a similar rumor a little while back that Apple was going to buy Waze. Yeah. Obviously, Waze is in play. Whether it's Apple or Facebook or Google, somebody's going to take these guys out in the next few months. And it's probably $1 billion deal, regardless of who makes that purchase. I mean, this is a company with a big following. People who I know who use this product love this product. The Waze solution, it does all the things you talk about. It even has the latest gas prices everywhere around you. By the way, all the gas price data should go into BlockAvenue.
Yeah, no kidding.
Anyhow,
so should all of Waze, all of the crowdsourced data as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think for the Waze guys, no matter what happens, this is a phenomenal deal. They will take the deal at some point. They're not going to be stupid like Groupon and walk away. I still think this is a better acquisition for Apple than Facebook. Yeah. Apple needs this more than Facebook does. Facebook's just buying mobile users because they need to do that. Apple really needs all that geo data, the mapping, all that other stuff. And I can't believe Google's going to sit out.
Well, Google's faced all these threats before in the mapping space, right? Getting bumped off of iOS, and then Apple's debacle with their own maps, and certainly when I was growing up in the internet, there was no Google Maps, right? There was another company, and that company nobody even remembers anymore. They might have certain users right now, but nobody uses the company anymore. Google has seen this and has actually kind of survived all of these, and certainly even with Nokia, right? Google owns this. It's a walled garden, and they own it. And I think the difference here is that I think, sure, Apple should have bought these guys. Maybe they didn't offer $1 billion. They should have offered $1 billion. They have more money than many countries. Apple does. But I think that, we've been talking about this, that GPS and location is the battlefield. And if you're not in that game, you're not in the game. And Facebook is not in that game yet. And it's very obvious to me that Facebook is looking at this as a very strategic, not a customer acquisition as much, but this is a very strategic operating system level acquisition of Waze, where they have the social graph with the location. Put those two things together, and you've got a pretty powerful story coming from Facebook. And if you were to kind of, I don't know, if you can't even compare Instagram and Waze as two companies, because both strategic buys. Both huge impact, but you're seeing Instagram become more and more like Facebook now, right? You're seeing that happen, being pulled into Facebook. But Waze is a completely different world for Facebook, and I believe that, ridiculous as it's going to sound, this $1 billion acquisition of Waze is central to Facebook's success going forward. I think that it's very important for these guys to be in this space, especially if they, I look at calendar as an operating system, and I look at location as the operating system, obviously, because we do this. And destination is perfect marriage for what Facebook offers on the social side. And this, I think, is going to be huge. And if Facebook doesn't do it, I don't know many other companies that they can look at to acquire, and then maybe that's when Apple gets in there, or these guys try.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Apple, if they're not at the table, comes back to the table. We know they were talking before, and Google's got to say something about this too. That's kind of where I'm at. But anyways, something's going to happen with these guys in the next few months.
I would 100% agree, and this is interesting. It's just. Yeah, I mean, we live in a frothy world, but when you're in the right space, doing the right thing at the right time, something like Waze, it's the promise of crowdsourced information when it comes to maps, and they seem to have nailed it, and I use it. Although the biggest challenge for me is no offline, as far as I can tell, no offline viewing. And that is a huge detriment, especially when you're going cross-border. You go from Canada to the US or US to Canada. It's too expensive to use Waze. So I use, a downloaded GPS. That they're starting to get a little bit smarter as well. So there's a limited window for Waze, I think. And certainly they should take the money and freaking run. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Take the money. Take the money.
There you
So
go.
we'll see what happens in the coming weeks with Waze. It could all be moot anyways. All right, 3 stories in. Customary break here. Take a breath. Everybody just relax. You'll get a moment away from both of our voices when Asif gets to introduce this little episode or a little interview he did with Duncan.
Yeah, so earlier this week, I got to sit down with Duncan McCall, who's one of the co-founders and the CEO of PlaceIQ. And this was just prior to them announcing that they'd raised $6.75 million. So we didn't talk about that on the show, but we did talk about what they're doing. We did talk about their recent project around with Starcom MediaVest Group around the place visit rate, which we covered on the show a few weeks back. One of the very first true location metrics that's being tried by brands and media buyers. So we did get a chance to chat about that. And so here it is. Here's that interview with Duncan McCall. Well, it's that time again where we get to sit down with our special guest of the week. And this week it's Duncan McCall, co-founder and CEO of PlaceIQ. Duncan, welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks so much for having me back.
Yeah, no worries. It's always great, especially when we have our members come on the show and get to share with us. So just to kick things off for our audience, why don't you tell us a little bit about, who is PlaceIQ? What are you guys all about?
Yeah, so PlaceIQ, been around about 3 years now, and we think of ourselves really as an audience company. And there's lots of folks who are audience companies. The thing we do very differently is the center, the anchor of everything we do is location. So if you look at our assets, we have a platform layer and a data layer, and then a bunch of applications off that. And if you think of the platform, it's essentially a geospatial platform with a lot of different types of data, tens of billions of data points. We look at location through this construct of tiles. These tiles are 100 meters by 100 meters, about 1 billion in the US. And we analyze tens of billions of different types of location data points to be able to infer audience intent, behavior, etc. And now that database and platform, we apply that in a bunch of different markets. And our primary market right now is mobile, whereby we leverage the ever-increasing reality of mobile ad impressions having location associated with them to use that location, both current location and past location associated with it, as a really, really powerful indicator of audience intent, behavior, and a whole bunch of capabilities and KPIs as well.
So, I mean, all of that to say, there's a lot of power in this platform and in the data that you're collecting. So what is the core problem at the end of the day that you were trying to solve with this? And obviously, you've been in the news recently with, the partnership with Starcom MediaVest and the announcement of the place visit rate. So, what is that core problem that you saw out in the industry?
Yeah, I always used to say to investors, we're seizing an opportunity, we're not solving a problem. But I think we're doing both, right? And fundamentally, the opportunity we feel we're seizing is the ability to step slightly, a little bit towards this dream that we now may not realize of sort of actual contextual one-to-one advertising, right? The ability to understand all of these signals that are around us now in this digital world, location being a core one for us, and use that as a really powerful construct to personalize advertising. So showing people ads that are relevant, that are timely, that are not disruptive, we think that is a gigantic opportunity. If we look at the problem we're looking to solve, I think we'll talk a little bit about PVR. We felt that was definitely a problem-solving opportunity for us. But in other games, it's really a problem we fundamentally solve on mobile is this construct of finding an audience and connecting with them in a really powerful time, location, consumer journey in people's lives. That's really the problem we solve at a high level.
Okay. Can you detail just very quickly then, how the PVR metric works because we have a lot of marketers, a lot of brands that listen to this podcast. Just help us understand what a PVR is.
Yeah, so PVR, to sort of dovetail into your previous point, we had a client here through MediaVest, part of Starcom, obviously, and we had a client here who said to us, listen, we love advertising, we love data, but we have real trouble with attribution. We don't know how to attribute mobile advertising. And one of the things we really care about, one of our KPIs is in-store visits. The ability to attribute the money we spend in mobile to actually those devices, those people visiting stores. And they went to a bunch of different people. It wasn't just us exclusively, and said, this is our problem, can you solve it? And we saw an opportunity using location, because we're obviously huge believers in the power of location. We said, we think we can solve this with location. And fundamentally, PVR, place visit rate, simplistically defined, is the ratio of mobile ads shown in the world to devices that were showing those mobile ads actually showing up in a physical location. Might be a store, might be a car dealer, might be a luxury resort. So if you sort of peel that back a little bit, effectively what we are doing here is we are using our existing targeting technologies to find mobile devices in the world that we want to communicate with in an intelligent way. And we are, for a number of those devices now, and obviously a lot easier in today's world, where UDIDs or device identifiers are less privacy sensitive compared to 6 months ago, we now see for a percentage of those devices, we can see a device identifier, we've seen the location we've served to, and now we say, do we see that device show up within the physical confines of our target location, a store, a car lot, etc. And we have physically built ourselves the high-fidelity polygons of these locations, and now we serve those ads, we see those devices, and then we look and we say, did any of those devices request an ad? We don't serve ads to them, did request an ad in one of those locations. So simplistically, we are literally serving ads and then seeing, did those devices show up in those locations of interest, and then correlating the two and saying, that is PVR, the place visit rate.
Love it, love it. So, I mean, I'm a big data guy. I love data, and work with agencies every day, and it's all about ROI, and it's all about metrics. And when you think about location, and you think about the power that brings to the table, it really does mean that there's a need for new metrics. I mean, the world of CPMs and CPCs and all of that you have from online don't necessarily translate well to measuring, what happens in terms of location and traffic and how many people did I get to the store today and how many coupons were redeemed and how many people did I share that deal with, and all those kinds of things are a different set of metrics in the world that we're in today than kind of the online measurement world. So PVR is great. I think it's a phenomenal start to something that should help shift and change the way we think about measuring the effectiveness of these ads tied to location. But maybe last word from you is what's next? Where do we go from here? What's the next metric?
Yeah, so I think if you take PVR and think about, okay, well in mobile, let's just take that one and think about other areas that can be applied in. So some of the things we'll be talking about soon, we're starting to work on, is this construct of applying it to other mediums. So you take, for example, digital out-of-home advertising, screens that are showing digital ads. You take existing out-of-home advertising, billboards. You can now start to say, hey, those are devices. Devices themselves have not been exposed, but those are devices that are in proximity, let's say, of an out-of-home billboard. You can start to measure in a friendly way, anonymously, those devices that are exposed to that out-of-home advertising, did they end up with any significant statistical degree in that destination that advertisement was communicating in any higher degree than a control group? So starting to be able to take PVR and say, let's apply it to additional metrics, out-of-home, digital out-of-home, other mediums. I still think we always come back to, in our world, this construct of location is this pervasive reality we live in, right? We all live in a physical space. We move through time and space, and our interactions, be they digital ones with IP addresses or mobile devices or digital screens, or more analog ones walking past a billboard, they are all location aware. And the world we live in now with all these sensors and all this data allows us to start to correlate all of this. So we really think we're just at the beginning of this journey of using this digital reality combined with location to understand and attribute all sorts of mechanisms that aren't just limited to digital marketing and measurement, but are limited, we'll start to go into the idea of retail site selection, retail intelligence, consumer planning, right? How do you more effectively understand the concept of people moving around a city, etc.? Those are the things that get us really, really excited in the long term. I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface here. So we're really excited for the future.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. I mean, you're singing from my songbook about, from the LBMA's perspective, we talk about that omni-channel integrated media around locations, around places. So I love that idea of taking this to, digital signage, billboard, and any medium, quite frankly, makes a lot of sense. So thank you so much for your time. Again, for our audience, we've been sitting down today with Duncan McCall, co-founder and CEO of PlaceIQ. Duncan, thanks for joining us on the show.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me, and keep up the good work.
So thanks again to Duncan for coming on the show and sharing with us in that way. There's so much yet to happen in this world of kind of location metrics, and we certainly appreciate them kind of move forward with that. And congratulations too on the funding that you raised this week, $6.75 million bucks, phenomenal. I think a testament to where they're going in that business and what he just talked about on that interview in terms of where they're yet to go from here. So at least they've got some fuel in the tank to make it happen.
God, I love money. That's a good amount of money.
That's a good amount.
$6.75 million. Thank you, Duncan. Go to placeiq.com, placeiq.com for more information about them and, of course, about Duncan McCall. Folks, thanks for taking some time and speaking with us, Eve. All right, back into some news.
All right, so our fourth story is a combination of things here. So we're talking about a relationship between Unilever, CausePlay, which is the app that's part of this project, and a supermarket chain or grocery chain in Southern California called Northgate Gonzalez Markets.
I'm totally lost.
So 36 Northgate Gonzalez Markets here. Unilever kind of pushing products like Axe, Dove, Ragu, a whole bunch of stuff that's available in these grocery stores, and CausePlay kind of powering all of this through their app. Okay, so how does this thing work?
Please tell me.
So basically, you as a user on the system, you can either text or scan a QR code. You receive shopping recommendations and product information. And when you spend $50 based on cumulatively across these products that they're trying to drive, these Unilever products, you receive 2 free tickets to a Rayleigh concert that's going to be happening on May the 17th at the Honda Center in Anaheim.
That's not a Bruce Springsteen concert, though.
No.
No. Okay.
Rayleigh.
Just want to make sure that doesn't even sound like Springsteen. Rayleigh.
Yeah. So I don't know this Rayleigh. I'm not a fan necessarily.
Because it's not Springsteen.
Can't say anything about it. It's not Springsteen. It's not a Toronto Maple Leaf game. 2 tickets to that, I'd be anywhere right now.
I would spend $50. You know what? No, you
$50,
couldn't pay me enough to go to a Leafs game.
Oh, whatever.
All right, carry on.
Yeah. Anyways, so I guess this, relatively interesting connection here going on. It's a very specific market. This Northgate grocery stores. It's a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. Rayleigh is an artist that I understand is well recognized within that demographic, within that community. So I could see this potentially working. I'm kind of so-so on this.
Well, what's interesting about it is that the cumulative $50 range. So like when you buy any Unilever product, you either scan it or you text a message in, and you get credited for that spend, and then as many times as you go back until you've spent $50 in Unilever products, and then when you've hit that mark, you get the tickets, right? Which is, I gather that what it is, it's trying to draw attention and try to create loyalty with an end game, which is the one thing that I like about this, because a lot of ongoing loyalty programs, it's just like you're accumulating with no destination or end in sight, no timetable, right? Like there's like even Aeroplan or Air Miles or whatever it is. It's like you're just accumulating. And what they're saying is, listen, you got to do this. The contest ends November 13th, and then November 17th is or May 13th and May 17th is the show. So it's these 6 weeks that lead up to that. You have a compressed time frame, and that's what I like about this. So if you're going to take a lesson out of this, is that when it comes to kind of loyalty. There's nothing like compressing the time frame, putting a beginning and an end, and then a deadline. So if you actually are interested in this, you will participate during those time frames. You've got to build anticipation. Sure. So I like that. You're right. It's a little confusing, but Unilever has like 300 or 600 products. So
it's a very local play here. I mean, this is a small market we're going after here. 30-something stores in a Hispanic part of Southern California.
But that's good, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's great. Actually, I think it's great. The other thing I didn't mention is there's two charities, two very local charities that benefit from this. So as you spend money on this, donations are being made to Olive Crest, which is a social program for at-risk children and families, and Red Eye, which is a support program for inner-city creativity and community building services.
So Unilever, CausePlay, Northgate Gonzalez Markets, and two charities. 5 players.
5 players.
And Raleigh, the musician. Like that that is a...
There you go.
Do they all have to be that complicated?
Hopefully not. Man. But, again, at a super hyper local level like this is, I think this kind of stuff can work. You can't take this thing nationally, but at a local level, this is good.
Unless it's Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Because I would spend $50 on any product. I don't care what it is. I would spend $50 on any product if I got 2 Springsteen tickets.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, interesting.
I'm gonna have my kids make you a nice Springsteen shirt.
Please. I'm wearing one right now. It ain't no sin to be glad you're alive.
Yeah.
That's on behalf of the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? It's not a sin to be glad you're alive.
Yeah.
You live another day till tomorrow.
We live another day.
All right. Our 5th story, Asif. Why don't this is an interesting one. We all know the Outback restaurant, and we all know about it's a very competitive market in the restaurant industry. It's a very competitive market, obviously, in the supermarket industry. So they decided to focus on check-ins, man.
Foursquare check-ins.
Foursquare check-ins. We got back-to-back Foursquare stories. Hold on tight, folks. What are we going to say?
So this is a brand actually endorsing the use of Foursquare.
Yes.
Yay, Foursquare. Because we're going to go boo Foursquare in a few seconds. So, so this was a campaign they ran during the month of April. It was called Laps for Apps, and it was connected to NASCAR. That's where the laps piece comes in. And the apps is appetizers. Okay, so the more laps you do, the more apps you get, is how this works. And so this ran during April. You check in via Foursquare, and each time you go back and forth from your house to the restaurant, checking in is consired a lap. Okay?
Yes.
It's
like a stretch. Did I run?
You receive an offer. After your second check-in, you receive an offer for a free appetizer with a purchase tied to their overall Outback's marketing program with NASCAR driver Ryan Newman. So this is all happening in Richmond, which I don't spend a lot of time in Richmond, but I know it's NASCAR country down there. So I guess this kind of thing can work.
Well, I love how they've stretched this whole lap thing. It's a check-in. So I step out of the restaurant, I step back in. How can I do that like in a nighttime?
Yeah.
What would be very interesting is like you got all those guys who are eating the bloomin' onions in the middle of the Outback, and it's like, okay, now run home and run back, and that's a lap, right? Burn off that 1,000 grams of saturated fat that you've just pounded back with the bloomin' onion. This is I think the outcome of this was 680 or around there.
678.
678 check-ins for the restaurant. Now, I have a hard time gauging if that's good, if that's bad. I mean, would all that effort for this? Does it? What do they do with the check-ins? What's the value?
I mean, their VP is saying this is great. I mean, this is more than they expected. So I don't know.
I just, I have a hard time putting a value on a check-in, right? And we all do. And I think that and maybe Square doesn't. We're going to talk about that in a second. But is the effort? Did that cost you $1 per per check-in, and then what's the lifetime value of that check-in? Like all those questions aren't answered. And did they come back again? And so I have a challenge around this, and everybody does as well. But if he's happy with it, I should be happy, I guess. But I'm just a little bit more critical than the average person when it comes to these things, because I don't know what a check-in means anymore. But the tie-in with NASCAR, the laps, fine, it's cute. But every time you check in, you get a free app, or every second time you check in, you get a free app, and it's like
with purchase though. It's not even just a free.
This is like 2007, right? This is a campaign that would have happened, and we would have been like, if we'd done this, if we'd done the podcast way back then when Foursquare first came out, it would have been like, oh my God, that guy is a genius, right? It's like, can you believe he did that? And now it's kind of like, oh my God, that guy's not a genius. Can you believe he did that? Like, he waited 3 years too long.
It's true. It's true.
Right?
It's
We're
true.
so jaded.
Yeah.
I feel so bad because,
I know.
You know what? A lot of people aren't exposed. To you and I, we're exposed to the beginning of the fringe, right? So the outside, and then we watch it come in, and we watch mainstream take over. So there are people that have just never done this before, never heard of this before, and it's evident because our sixth story, people had never heard of Foursquare before. They're like, well, if they didn't want to be associated with Square, why did they name themselves Foursquare? Like, so people don't know, right? And so maybe this is a win. Like, hey, boss, have you ever heard of a check-in, man? Have you heard of this company called Foursquare? No? Wow, I just found it yesterday. I just downloaded the app, right? Anyway, I don't mean to be critical, but I am.
Why not? Come on, be critical.
All right. Well, let's jump into the sixth story then.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So, do you think so? The story is that, listen, Square is out there. Square is the payment service. For those of you who don't know, after I've made fun of people who don't know about Foursquare, don't admit to me that you don't know who Square is if you listen to this podcast. So Square is this company, obviously, that does payments, and there's a rumor that they've been talking out actually very openly about using your data, finally, your payment data, to predict what you want, to basically to put things in front of you that you actually might be interested in based on your purchasing behavior. And the industry is saying, well, this is exactly what Foursquare is trying to do. This is the industry saying that's also that what Yelp is trying to do and what Facebook is trying to do with their social graph and their social search. So do you think that Square is actually going to feed Foursquare its lunch? Whatever. I don't even know how to ask that question.
Well, I mean, here's how I see this. I think Square is doing a great job of building their brand and getting out there and grabbing merchants and doing transactions.
Well, I mean, I'd see if are they really like 330,000 merchants across the United States? Like they got a long way to go.
Well, remember, we're talking about a different set of merchants typically than the ones that Foursquare is driving.
I'm not even comparing them to Foursquare. So no. But
it's a different set of merchants. Yeah. But with that said, regardless of whether it's Square or any other payments platform out there, you're sitting on a treasure trove of data in terms of what people are buying, what those transactions are. The concept of taking that data and leveraging it to drive recommendations based on location is a no-brainer to me. So
what took them so long?
Yeah, exactly. Well, like
where have they been?
What took them so long? Right. So for me, this is a great move for Square. Whether you think they're doing a fantastic job or not, it's what they should be doing.
Yes. Is
making recommendations to their users based on past behavior and patterns and purchases. So if I see you're buying a lot of coffee and based on that, and a new coffee shop's opening around the corner, I'm going to recommend that to you. That makes sense to me. Foursquare doesn't have any payment data, and so while they come from pushing recommendations based on where you've been before, they don't. At the end of the day, they don't know what you've actually bought at those places. So I think it's a lot easier for the payments companies to make recommendations based on all that history of purchase pattern behavior than it is for Foursquare to kind of go and drive those recommendations in an actual valuable way. So, for me, whether it's Square or Amex or Visa or MasterCard or ISIS or whoever, insert payments company here, this is what you should be doing, is making recommendations based on that data. So to some extent, I think this does have an impact on Foursquare's business. They're right now in different markets. They're serving different consumers. But there's definitely some intersection to be had, as this moves along.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe, and I've believed for a long time, is that in Canada we adopted the debit system. We talked about this. I've said this before. We adopted the debit system very, very well ahead of most nations around the world. And so our debit company is called Interac, and Interac has every transaction that I've ever made with my debit card for the last almost 20 years. It knows what I'm going to spend money on tomorrow. It knows what I'm going to spend money on in 6 months from now, because it has access to that information, because it's how I pay for most things. And you're right. The most important thing here, there's all these arguments. Fast Company did a great article on the flaw in the Square versus Foursquare argument, and they were saying, well, listen, it's a combination of both, and they're so right. It's the intent to be at a place and the purchase patterns of somebody. I think that the key determination is the purchase patterns of somebody. It's not just an individual purchase. Like, we've all done this with Amazon, right? Where we go onto Amazon and we buy like a gardening book for our wives or our mother or something like that, and then I get 300 gardening recommendations, and that was just an isolated incident where I needed to buy a book, right? So it's patterns. It is not isolated purchases. And if you are going to pattern something over something, you're going to pattern something on something. Hear me out. Is that it's not the places that I happen to be at that maybe I don't spend any money. It's the places that I'm at often that I spend lots of money in, right? And that, to me, is valuable data. And it's ridiculous that Square hasn't looked at this, but it's not going to be Square that wins this race. It's just not going to be Square. They are too small. They are not going to last long enough in order to be able to, for them to create this tremendous value when it comes to this, because the credit card companies have that data. They have my history. They have all of my history since 1967 when Visa was invented, right? That is, and then, it's the same thing with the mortgage companies. The mortgage companies know when you're going to default like 6 years before you do, or they know when you're going to get divorced 20 years before you do, simply because they have patterned data and they are accurate. And when that stuff comes out, this isn't new. This isn't a new science. This isn't new to any company. They've been doing this since data was invented. And the fact that we think that this is unique, that what Square is doing, is fucking ridiculous. Right? Square's not a hero here. They're a laggard, and they're not going to win this industry because, quite frankly, neither is Foursquare. There are 100 companies that own massive reams of data that know exactly who you are and what you've done and what you're going to spend tomorrow. And that, you know what? They just haven't put it out there because we would be frightened.
I completely agree with everything you just said. But here's how I'm going to sum this up. So at the end of the day, this is another knock on Foursquare. Yeah. Go Leafs, go. Exactly. This is another knock on Foursquare. Yeah. That from the investors out there and anybody who is thinking about jumping off the platform, it's just another reason to say, I'm done with it. Number one. Number two, I agree. Square is not going to be a winner in this payment system. However, they are going to have massive growth this year. Massive growth. The valuation of this company is going to go through the roof. They're going to get taken out in the next 18 months by somebody based on all this data and where they're at. They've tripled their user base since last year.
Wicked.
They're at 3 million users now, 300 and some odd thousand merchants. They just hired this week Alex Petrov, who was the head of partnerships at PayPal, who got them into all the bricks and mortar merchants. He's going to do that same thing for Square right now. So it's not just going to be Starbucks anymore. By the end of this year, you're going to see Square all over the place. So that's going to help them a lot. They're still not going to be the big winner in the end. I agree with that. But they're going to be worth a whole lot of money, and someone's going to pay a whole lot of money.
And they are. They will be worth it, and it's good that they're worth it, because it's usually these guys that are transforming an industry, and which is exactly what Square's doing. They put a new perspective on it. The one thing that I'll say, though, is that because they brought on Petrov and they're moving into bricks and mortars and they're going after larger companies like Starbucks, it is opening up the vacuum that allowed Square to get into this industry, which is small and medium-sized businesses. I think that there's a good opportunity for a new company to come in and mop that up as they're moving upstream, so to speak. This is Clayton Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma to a T right now. It's just happening at an accelerated pace within Square. So, Square, big growth. Foursquare, no growth this year? What? No. Still
done.
Yeah,
still done.
And I wonder why we don't get them on the show. Do you think they even listen anymore? I don't think so.
No, I think they're done.
I don't think so.
They're done with us.
All right. Well, I'm done with them. So that's it. Those are our big 6 stories. The launch of BlockAvenue, Pennies For Life, that great campaign. Will Facebook buy Waze? We have no idea. Somebody will. Will it be Facebook? Why not? We've got Unilever, CausePlay, and Northgate Gonzalez Markets doing a hyperlocal $50 total acquisition play. Very, very hyperlocal. Outback Steakhouse doing the laps for apps. And, of course, Square going after Foursquare and that whole debate there. Great stories, Asif. And we've only got one last thing, which leads very nicely into this Pew Research on what? On how it's a summary of findings on about who uses location and when.
Yeah, these guys put out fantastic data. They update it very, fairly often as well. And so for me, it's just a good snapshot, to kind of track the growth quarter by quarter in terms of, the changes in who's using location. So, the couple key data points in this, we've seen a shift from May of 2011 to February of 2012, where it went from 55% of folks out there use smartphone owners, use location-based services to 74%. So big jumps in that kind of data. The demographic data follows that as well in terms of they've got breakdowns here by gender, by age categories, by ethnicity, household income. So all the data is there. If you're looking for those breakdowns in terms of who's using location-based services and geo services in North America, check out the Pew Research. That's where you're going to get.
You're going to put that right up on the LBMA/research. Is that where it's going to? Is that?
Yeah, it'll be up there. Yep.
That is it, Asif. Any final words? No chance. No rah-rahs, anything to do with location-based marketing at its best. Talking about location-based marketing is that how many people were sitting out front of the Air Canada Centre watching this game tonight in basically late fall weather in Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, you basically had 40,000, in the stadium, yep. And you had another 20-something thousand outside the stadium. Right. it's just ridiculous. Right. So, but that's the fan base. Right. I mean, people are just, they go crazy and cars are honking all around in every part of, the greater Toronto area. It was just, it was out of control.
Pandemonium. Yeah. The blue and white, there's it's an original 6 team. And boy, oh boy, the fan base goes deep. I just think from a location and marketing standpoint is that there's got to be some way that, that this gets organized very organically. But you got to see that the next round, should they advance past the Boston Bruins, there's going to be some kind of sponsor that's managing that, and there's going to be an app out there that does this. And
there's going to be all kinds of stuff. But wait till next year when we have Detroit in our division, even better. Good.
Well, man. All right. So you are in town this week. Then you're going to be in New York for the May 23rd event. And of course, if you happen to be in New York at the event on May 23rd. Please go and track down Asif, only if you've got good things to say. No punches, just hugs. If you want to leave us a message, if you agree with some of the things we've said today, if you disagree, which is what we appreciate, we want some controversy, we want some conversation, go down tether.tv/talk. Leave us a 30-second voicemail. We'll play it here, right here on the show, in your own voice, unedited. We will even leave in the swear words if your mother is okay with that, or if you're okay with your mother hearing that. Please do that on tether.tv/talk.
Yeah.
And as always.
And while we're talking about mothers, because your mother and my mother, still watch the show. They're one of the, the thousands of fans that we have. But they're the original fans that got us going and still sustain us today. So to our mothers, happy Mother's Day.
Very much so. Very, very, very much so. And to our wives, who are the mother of our children, same thing.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
All right, Asif, let's wrap it up. We'll see you next time. We will be here for episode number 130 of the show next week. And until then, be safe and do something, walk around, take some snapshots, check in a couple of times. Let's do Foursquare a favor. Let's check in this week, okay? All right. Safe week. All right. See you later, everybody.
All right. Cheers. Bye.